How you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazons. And folks, we have a New York Metropolitan transaction to get into, as the Mets have bought themselves another reliever this offseason, as a surprise to absolutely nobody, but they bought a reliever this time in the trade market and not the free agent market. As you see here, come out from the Mets themselves earlier today, states the following. They have acquired right-hand relief pitcher Yohan Ramirez from the Chicago White Sox in exchange for cash considerations. We're going to certainly miss cash considerations. Wish him all the best there in Chicago. But all jokes aside, I want to know your initial thoughts, comments, questions, reactions down below, because I know many of you guys are wondering, Wardy, who is Yohan Ramirez? I have no clue who this guy is. This is another nobody name that David Stearns assigned to the bullpen. Yes, it absolutely is, but there's a reason for this, and I'm going to get into why exactly did the Mets make this move. Was the upside with Ramirez, and what will his potential impact be for this upcoming season, if at all? But for those that don't know Yohan Ramirez, he's a 28-year-old right-hand reliever that's been on a handful of teams thus far in his MLB career. And again, it leaves a little bit to be desired for sure. Not someone that you're looking at to be your guaranteed setup man for the Mets next season or anything like that. However, he has plenty of tools in his arsenal, and certainly something that I think David Stearns in particular likes, and is going to try to maximize out of and see what Jeremy Hefner can work with heading into spring training for the 2024 season. But as you guys see here, Ramirez's numbers are the following. In 31 games, in just under 40 innings this past season, a 4.23 ERA, a 4.3 expected ERA, a 1.46 whip, 35 strikeouts, a career just under 4 ERA for the right-hand reliever. And there's a couple things that stand out to me about Ramirez. Let's start with the obvious. And I want to give a big shout out to my great friend on the channel and fellow YouTuber in Jolly Olive, because while I've referenced this in previous videos, especially Jorge Lopez when the Mets signed him, it holds true. And this was a great point by Jolly, stated on Twitter earlier today, how the Mets bullpen last season averaged right around 93.7 miles per hour in their fastball, which was 24th in MLB. And now by acquiring someone like Ramirez here, that's going to, of course, help uptick, because the Mets faced a lot of challenges with their pen last year and the lack of velo, in large part because of not having a guy like Edwin Diaz. But now bringing in Ramirez, who averages right around 95 miles per hour in the sinker. You love to see that. Jorge Lopez is touching 97 average miles per hour on his sinker as well. And all the pickups the Mets have done with their relievers thus far, they have at least one pitch at 95 miles per hour or more. So aside from the splitty, the sinker rather, which is the number one pitch in his arsenal, Ramirez, he's gotten to hit around a little bit with that pitch, but when looking at the changeup and the sweeping slider in particular, which I absolutely love, he's seen plenty swing and miss at the MLB level. That is where he's had a good amount of success. When looking at his main pitch, that being in the sinker, he of course needs to get better with his location. There's plenty of late movement, late life on that pitch, so because of that reason, reminds me a bit of Dustin May. Of course that's a far more extreme example, but when you have these type of heaters with the type of late movement, a lot of times, even though that you have a lot of movement, it doesn't necessarily go in your favor, right? It could end up cutting and bam, it's right down the pipe, and there you go, it's 450 dead center. So yes, there of course are qualities to Ramirez's game that could leave fans saying, okay, I'm really not too overwhelmed with this. This is just a lower move pickup, nothing more, nothing less. And I tend to agree with you, but it's just a further example of the Mets, again, trying to get as many different arm slots as possible. Guys that have had success with one or two pitches, but maybe have struggled with their command. Similar, which is the case here with Ramirez, because he averaged over 8K per nine this past season, but a just under 4 walks per nine. Now, that doesn't overly alarm me, only because we've seen Jeremy Hefner work with guys in the past and have really helped their walk rates. Adam Ottavino's first year with the Mets, he went from a north of 5 walks per nine to around a 2. Same thing with David Robertson, right around a 5 walks per nine, and got him well down to right around 2 during his tenure with the Mets. So let's see if Jeremy Hefner can kind of work his magic a little bit more here with Yohan Ramirez, who again has plenty of life on the arm, and another guy that's going to come in and eat innings for you, regardless of the extent of his impact for the Mets next season. He's just one of many examples of what David Stearns is trying to build. Instead of putting all your eggs in all these in one or two baskets, he rather put them in multiple. We're talking 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 plus. That way the Mets have as much depth as humanly possible. They have as many MLB caliber ready arms as possible. And Ramirez, again, as of now, he's going to be in the Mets bullpen for 2024, barring any changes, should they not cut him prior to the season or anything like that, because he has no minor league options left. So when you look at a guy that just has a sub 4 ERA as a reliever in his career, and you just got him for cash considerations, when you look at the lack of depth the Mets have had, and you know that he does have some plus stuff there with the sweeping slider in particular, this feels feels just exactly like the type of David Stearns moves that we've seen so far this offseason and can anticipate to continue to see for the remainder of the offseason. Of course, we would love to see them go after bigger fish in the bullpen. I certainly hope they do, headlined by a guy like David Robertson, which I just did a video on the channel. Make sure to check it out after watching this one in case you haven't already, folks. But we know David Stearns has been notorious for building bullpens in various ways, and that's exactly what he is doing here again in his first year as president of baseball operations for the Mets. So when you look at the stat line, when you look at the pitches, and I'll even break down in particular, shout out Baseball Savant for the numbers. His expected numbers too are pretty solid from last season. I'm not truthfully bothered too much about what I'm seeing. Of course, the K percentage, the walk percentage, those are things he needs to work on, but these are limited sample sizes, and there's no guarantee to what impact he's going to have on the Mets next season. But knowing that he's an active pitcher that will be on the roster, that's going to start the year with the Mets as of now, that is exactly why we're breaking him down. The only breakdowns you probably won't see as much here on the channel are more those minor league signings with spring training invites. We break them more so down in streams because there's even more uncertainty there. There might be a great slider, but the guy can't command the zone to save his life, so that's why the Mets are giving a flyer. Not the case here with Ramirez. There's certainly more upside than downside versus some of the other pickups they have done with relievers so far this offseason. But the sinker, as I mentioned, again, a 288 batting average allowed, only, however, a 385 slug. So the power hasn't necessarily been the issue against that pitch as it has been the contact ability from the opposing batters. But when you look at the sweeping slider, 211 average, an expected batting average of 171 and the 316 slug. Love to see that. And its changeup, a 200 average and a 200 slug allowed. Lots to like there from those pitches. So it really looks like the sinker has some nice late movement. If that's something that can get rectified a bit, a little bit more control on his side, this could be, again, one of the many very sneaky pickups David Stearns has done this offseason to help have an impact for the Mets bullpen for 2024 and beyond. So Mets fans, whoever you're a fan of, I want to know your biggest takeaway from this little trade the Mets did here, landing Yohan Ramirez from the Chicago White Sox organization. Again, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing overly flashy, as we're currently waiting to find out where Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to land. That's the big story, and that's what's going to continue to be the case until we find out that news. And we will likely be live either later tonight or tomorrow at the absolute latest for our next Mets Free Agent Frenzy live stream. So make sure you guys are staying tuned on the channel for all the latest content. Make sure to check out the previous content over the past day or so, because the Mets are very much in on Yamamoto, and things are looking, as of now, at least solid for their chances at landing the coveted MPB star. So Mets fans, continue to let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for the endless support, and stay tuned for consistent coverage all offseason long here in WardyNYM. And this is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.